Hey everyone, if when you're tuning in here, I'm gonna get started in just a few minutes. Just pulling up the resources to see what occurred. So looks like the patch dropped 3 hours ago. I figure I'll probably just go. I'm gonna start with the things that I predict. I want to check on the things that I thought were like almost a sure thing to get changed, and we'll see what goes on. Okay, I think we got the stream live now. So first thing I want to check on is the Acellus, the PS shield. Um, let's do this guy first. Aha! Looks like we nailed it. Went down from 90. I said 80, but it looks like they went with 81. And then lowering the missile lock correction makes total sense. I'm assuming they moved it to the Abbott, which... Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so they buffed the Abbott's close range assist. They're going to be very close. I feel like that was probably not needed in the close range assist, given you had medium and also the missile lock supremacy now. But okay, so I'll take it. Not a major difference. I do wonder if this is too close to the Acellus. I'll have to play around with that and experiment if 5 points makes a substantial difference. But that is wonderful. Let's check on the PS shield. Left back unit. Yeah, okay. I'll go in order after this. 0.6 seconds. All the impact looks the same. Deploy heat buildup is still near max, but that value is lower. So perhaps they've lowered the ceiling of deploy heat. This still looks like a lot to me. How many is this? That might still be too much. I feel like that is way too many deploys. This shield got a minor nerf. Cooling seems to be still so strong that as long as you're not spamming it, you're going to be able to keep the shield up the entire stagger fight. I'm using it liberally. That is probably... Like, I'm glad they did nerf it, but that does seem underwhelming. What about the SUQ? Did they nerf this one? Oh geez. Okay, so that one is still really powerful. This one, as long as you have the AP to support it, and you can afford to take a bit more damage in the PS Shield, that one is still, I think, going to be best in slot now for impact reduction. SU, okay, they did buff the RU8, I think, space impact. It was a little too close to 50, I believe, earlier. Oh, and I do want to check the PB buckler, just because I was waiting for this one in particular, because I love this one. I noticed the IG window got a buff. I worry. Okay, I worry about making this one too easy to use. This is an extremely rewarding shield if you parry with it, and it should be extremely hard to pull off. And I had no trouble mastering it when I put in the time. But we'll see if that was needed. They did get the deploy heat buff. It looks like we can do 3 deploys now with a little bit left. Oh, sorry, I had some heat build up there. Let's refresh that. Or wait, supply. There we go. All right, let's try this again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah. So we did get the 1 extra buff. So the PB buckler also got the buff that I expected. I really don't think it needed that IG duration buff though. So if we got, what is this, 4 deploys now, so we get 1.6 seconds of IG. That really makes it hard to justify the SUTT now. That might not look like a big buff, like 0.1 seconds, but it actually is a 33% extension to the IG. Okay, both of these, like all of these shields now are probably going to be just absolutely supreme over the other shields, unless some other major changes happen here, but I don't see any. I guess the big question now is going to be whether or not the PB buckler, with its extended IG window and its number of deploy counts will beat out the PS shield. Um, this seems really strong, but I feel like shields in general got a bit of a buff here. The PS went down, but I feel like the SUQ and the PB Buckler are going to be really standout shields now. And the PS shield still, if you don't have the AP to support the SUQ5. But yeah, that is an interesting choice to make the PB Buckler stronger. Anyways, let's go down in order now. So starting from the top of the list here. Weapon, laser blade got a increased charge attack power. I mean, I'll take that. I think the problem with the laser blade was fundamentally the animation, because like this was too slow for a light lunge that didn't have a mini stun, like I said. Looks like the animation's unchanged. Attack power got a pretty good buff. Let's do the math here. So the cumulative impact also got a buff. Interesting. Okay, so I just want to do the math to see what kind of damage we're going to be doing. Times 1.2. So about 4,000 damage if you do a light slash on a punish now. Still well behind the pulse blade, so it is kind of annoying when you have to take that smaller punish. Let's see here. I'm going to do the charge attack. 15 or 1450 times 2 times 1.95 times 1.29. Okay, so the charge attack still does about the same as the pulse blade, maybe a little bit more. I think the main change here is the accumulative impact, I guess. Okay, it was just the charge attacks that actually got the buff. That's why. It got an even more substantial cooling buff. Okay, so maybe that will indirectly help the weak animation by just allowing you to spam it. Let's see here, what is this? Okay, that's not bad. Like, I'll take it. It's the laser blade needed a slight buff. I feel like this was probably in the wrong areas, but it might indirectly compensate for the weakness of the animation, which was that cooling being buffed. The laser lance got increased charge attack power, charged cumulative impact, and the PA interference. This is another thing I'm quite interested to see. Will the PA interference stats now help bring shield supremacy down? I'm curious. I'm going to take a look at the pulse blade first, just because this one should be. No, they didn't really tweak that. Okay, so maybe it'll occur elsewhere. Emmanuel says all melee animations are unchanged. Now with double melee, how will the change with the Acellus and the Santai? I haven't got to the Santai, but I did notice my QB or my EN recharge delay is slightly longer. I feel like with melee, not to skip ahead, but I feel like with melee, your capacity is the final stat that matters more so than everything else, just because it basically is your fuel tank for how many actions you can do in your combo. Oh, this is interesting. I'm skipping ahead here, but that is a very interesting change. I'm going to have to come back to that. The EN supply on the Ming Tang is dramatically higher. I'm just going to take a quick look to see if there's any other capacity notes while I'm here. No, it looks like the Santai is still the lead here. The Ming Tang, I'm going to have a lot to talk about with this one. That is very interesting with that EN recharge delay being so low. It may even be possible to make this one work for melee. Let's see what that EN... Oh yeah, this one leaves very little downtime. The question is, will I have enough to get targets up high in the air? But let's not skip ahead. Hey Remy, welcome to the stream. Yeah, you're here in time. I'm not too far ahead. I got a little sidetracked there. Let's get back on track though to the laser lance. So this one just got charge attack power, charge cumulative impact, and a PA interference buff. I feel like they're still underdoing the PA interference stats on a lot of the melee weapons from what I can see here. This will not overcome parry frames for pretty much any shields, and I feel like if you're going to have a weapon that breaks shields, you need to balance it around the typical parry frames like the PS, PB, and the SUQ. But yeah, okay, I'll take it. Again, the lance was already quite good at its charge attack power, charge cumulative. Maybe this is just helping it stand out a bit more and get a bit more use. Still quite heavy though. Plasma thrower got a nerf. Saw that coming. Again, I feel like this might have been in the wrong area. They didn't address the cooling. So it did get a decrease to attack power. It's still hitting for 2400. base, not factoring your melee specialization. And impact got reduced from 850 to around 850, I think it was, to 690. So we're hitting a burst of 1400 impact roughly, which means with a Zimmerman lead, you can still do 2000 impact. So that's still going to be a scary weapon. A cumulative impact, I don't remember what the original value was. I think it was 560, but a slight nerf there. Still seems very strong. Probably needed to address the cooling though. I feel like this has to be extremely scary in order to do its job, but they should have made it so that you could, if you slipped it, you got some reward and a generous window to punish. Okay, moving on. Rummy, don't spoil it for me. I'm not there yet. I'll get there. He's talking about the Flugel and the melee thrust. I do expect a lot of melee thrust changes because the Kakaku was like the only really viable one. It took me a lot of work to make a Flugel justified one, and it involved a shield. Okay, let's get to the Coral Oscillator. They didn't change the Moonlight. That's kind of sad. So these two still overlap a little too much. Attack power, 1460. So what happened here? Increased attack power, cooling has been decreased, and increased cooling. Okay, that's helpful. Let's see if the blade can do into a combo into a triple punch now. 1, 2, 3. Swap to Zimmerman. Wow, the cooling change was not really noticeable. Okay, not a problem. I think it was like 199 before. Let's take a look here. Okay, yeah, I got a pretty marginal cooling buff. Looks like a little bit, like maybe 10%, a little bit more than 10%. The attack power buff, 1460. I still don't think that's enough then if they're going to keep the cooling low on this, because every time you use this without a mini stun, you're basically agreeing to a trade. And bazookas, like even a single bazooka rivals the Coral Blade. Granted, it doesn't go through resist, but when you factor in that you can run 2 shoulder bazookas, well, then all of a sudden you are looking at a very unfavorable trade, especially with laser weapons. Okay, I feel like the Coral Blade is not particularly stand out with that change. I'm glad they did buff it. I just feel like it needs more work. The cooling, if they had made it so that the cooling can go off of a triple punch instead of needing the Zimmerman swap to stagger extend even further, then it might have overcome the issue it had with the animation and being parryable and the opponents waking up after you hit with the Coral Blade to stagger, try to triple punch, swap to the Zimmerman to stagger extend, and then do the Coral Blade. It still requires all of that, it looks like, in order to get the stagger extension. Let me actually test that out here. I just need to make a quick change to this weapon. Let's put that on. Put on trainer AC. Why did I put the stun baton on that side? That that's supposed to be over here. Okay. I just need a weapon bay on the right side. Okay, so let's see how this works now. So we'll do Coral Blade. Or can we? Oh, I didn't actually stagger. I did that wrong. Let me just stagger with this. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we still need the whole swap in order to get the... And there is enough wake up time typically to get that. So that... or to get the parry off, unless you're behind them. So that is underwhelming. But that's okay. Moving on. Curtis got a buff. What do we have here? So increased projectile speed, definitely needed. It needs to rival the Harris to be a long-range weapon, and decreased recoil, but no change to a cumulative impact or base impact. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you're right. EN load as well on the Coral Blade. That's fine. I mean, I'll take it as well. I guess that's nice. It's still quite expensive, but here, I'll just jump out a test for a second. I'll go onto my Coral Blade build. Let's see if the EN supply is well over 20. I think it's around 2200. Let's take a look. Don't look. I have a Ducket build I was working on. Don't peek. Although I just saw on the notes that the Ducket is also buffed, so expect that build video to drop soon. I'm assuming that thing's going to be a monster. Double Curtis is handled by recoil of 109. Okay. Okay, got a substantial buff. I don't need to purge the missiles to have reasonable EN. I am probably going to swap this generator on this build right off the bat, though. I don't even really have to test that. I can just tell that given the Coral Blade's long cooling problem still, I'm going to have to focus more on defense. And yeah, that recharge delay making my vulnerable window much shorter while having... I'll sacrifice some capacity, but I can definitely justify this, and I'm pretty sure the Flugel is... Okay, yeah, so this thing is really close to the Kakaku. You're right. This could be very well over buffing the Flugel, just buffing the Flugel, which I wanted. I wanted to see the melee thrust replace the Kakaku's value, but if they didn't increase the ceiling, which it looks like they didn't, then the Kakaku might just be left in the dust now. The only thing it's got going for it is going to be AB thrust. Okay, but not going out of order. Okay, so... Let's see here. Let's put a enemy on. I'm really curious to see my velocity here. See if it's in the 700s versus if I have a Kakaku. Yeah, so I'm in the 700s. That's good. 760 looks like around my ceiling. Let's compare that to the Kakaku. I think this might still need the Kakaku actually, just for the EN efficiency. Alright, so we're in the 800s. I saw that. It felt like pretty small though, like 50 points. So yeah, that could be a problem. The Kakaku now needs a ceiling lift to the melee thrust. Okay, jumping back to the patch notes. Alright, so we're going to talk about the Curtis, that's right. Which, funny enough, is my name. 52, I wanted to do the math here. I wanted to compare the accumulative impact buildup of these two, because the Curtis should have a higher value. So we've got 109 shots per every 1.3 seconds, meaning it's an 83.8 accumulative impact average versus 52 shots every 2. Oh wait, hold on, I did that wrong. Derp. Let's just start here. So 52 accumulative impact times 2.5 shots a second. That's 130. All right, what is the value on this one? 109 times 1.3. 141. This one's better. So what penalty do I pay for having a better charge attack? I mean, yes, it takes longer to charge up and it overheats it, but usually if you're going for a charge attack, those are acceptable trade-offs. Maybe damage? 142 times 2.5. That's 355 versus... Alright, it beats it out slightly on damage by 10%. I still think this one should have had better accumulative impact value than this one, but okay. That is the direction they went there. Maybe they're just playing it slow. Let's just see how the projectile speed affects stuff. Decreased recoil. Maybe the recoil stat. Yeah, the recoil stat does stand out now. Basically 2/3 the value. So maybe this one will just be a viable option on kites now for lighter or for arms with less recoil control. Okay. Let's check what's next. Machine gun, Ludlow. Okay, we're skipping the assault rifles. I hope those come back because without projectiles be buffed, these are still garbage. That might be a shame. Ludlow got a projectile speed buff. I'm assuming it's matching the Etsugen. Chang Chen got a projectile speed buff and decreased recoil. Though these could be scary. So I don't remember if I mentioned it in my video, but one of the problems with the SMG is that the impact is 2 times the accumulative impact, and that makes it so that blocking with anything other than a parry shield is completely pointless. Most of the shields have around 50% impact reduction in non-IG windows, which in theory should be the best shields for blocking damage and impact over time, but basically what happens is you reduce the impact in half, but the base impact is the value that decides how much you take on a shield. So because it's 2 times, they just cancel out roughly, and you end up not blocking any impact buildup. You actually end up taking more because the shield's bigger, your hitbox is bigger, and you can't dodge, so you're taking every hit. So I'm assuming these just basically got brought closer to the Etsugen. Etsugen still looks really strong. I know that this got a nerf, decreased attack power. That's not the problem with the Etzogen, really. It's the impact value. Apparently it was reduced slightly, but I'm pretty sure the base impact was 48, so this basically got less than a 10% nerf. So in other words, it'll take them maybe minus a tenth of the time that it took them to stagger you. Again, I think the problem with these were the range. They're just better than assault rifles at the range that should be assault rifles. These should be capping out at maybe, I don't know, 180-ish in effective range. Okay, so Etzogens, or sorry, I feel like SMGs are still super strong. They basically just made it so the other ones are now doing the same thing as the Etzogen. They're just really strong, and assault rifles are untouched. Boo. Haldeman, I guess, is getting skipped. It looks like we're jumping all the way to the Ducket. That's unfortunate. Haldeman is untouched as well. That's still going to lack any use in PvP. Same with the Sweet 16. Coquillette untouched, but the Ducket got some work. This will be... Oh, wow, and it got a lot. So this is going to make my new build really strong. I'll just give you a sneak peek of it, actually, here. I said don't peek, but I'm just going to show you because it's coming out right next. If you watch the stream, it's the perk, I guess. You get to see the build. I was playing around with Coke and Ort and Rose yesterday, testing this out with them. So the idea is, again, working around the Huxley's ability to maintain impact, and because the Duckets have an extremely favorable impact versus a cumulative impact value, you basically build up on the impact value and never drop into the accumulative because you've always got a Huxley available. It's crazy amounts of stagger, and they've made the punish a lot better, so I might be able to swap off of assault armor now. Anyways, yeah, the Ducket just got an increased attack power buff. Impact's been buffed a little bit. It was already 300, I believe, so 315 is pretty marginal. I guess that would be, what, like 5%? Accumulative impact got buffed. I don't really care about that with the pistols as much. I feel like, well, it matters, but it's ideally you want to stagger them in the magazine. You don't want to ever let their impact decay. The magazines per round went up, so that's going to really help. Okay, so I feel like this is honestly the best pistol now. I mean, the Coquillette should have better accumulative impact per second, and also better impact per second overall when you factor in the reload, but I feel like usually you just want to stagger them in that one magazine and then get space if you need to reload anyways. Okay, so Ducket's looking fine. They buffed some of the bazookas. I'm glad that they buffed... Yeah, I wanted this too, the little gem. These little bazookas needed to stand out more. So little gem got decreased weight and EN load. What's the firing animation? It's the fast one, so that's good. The Javelin Alpha got a buff. Decreased weight. Interesting. Maybe that's to make... wow, the Gao Chen is actually lighter still. Yeah, okay. I guess that's fine. I don't really think the Javelin Alpha needed a buff. It was already one of the favorite bazookas. The Dizzy got decreased reload time. Should probably check the comment here. Coquillette problem is recoil. Yeah, if you're going to go with pistols, you really do have to run high recoil. That's why I'm using the arms I am. Let's see here. So Remy says, I used to have to delay each punch, then Zim punch before I could Coral Blade cool down. Now, I mean, I always could slash right after Remy. I don't think it needed it. Maybe it is doable now with delayed punches, though, you're right. Coquillette problem is recoil. Yeah, that was the problem with the Coquillette, for sure. You need to run high recoil resistance, which usually comes at the expense of melee specialization. But I'm pretty sure I saw some melee specializations while I was driving. Should not be checking my phone while I'm driving, but I was at a red light, so... Iridium, I hope, also got a reload buff. Let's check this. It did, yeah, decreased reload buff, so it was right on that as well. Stun Bomb Launcher, increased reload time. I don't think it was really needed. I mean, I don't really see this that often. I know that Stun Gun with Stun Gun launchers on swap with a SPD booster lightweight biped was really annoying to chase down, though. They were just so fast, and you would either get impact staggered or you'd get Stun Gun staggered, so maybe this was to address that sort of like brainless playstyle. Flamethrower got a decreased weight. Small, but sure. Again, my change would have been to just buff the damage ever so slightly. Laser Rifle LR got, well, it looks like buffs across the board. Impact is less of a... I really hope they're not going to make a bunch of laser impact buffs. But let's see here. Cumulative impact went up. Like, see, looking at this weapon, you just look at it and say, why should I ever use an assault rifle? Like, 60, basically a cumulative impact, 135 at a fire rate of 1.7. I mean, with the speed of this, the range is better than assault rifles. Like, sorry, the projectile speed's better. The damage is usually going to be better. Plus, there's no reload time. You just have to be careful not to overheat. Yeah, that's a good change. I did want to see this. I'm just sad they didn't adjust the assault rifles first. Oh, they didn't nerf the LRB. That is surprising. I'm just noticing it skips right ahead to the laser shotgun. Okay, so this thing's damage is per second is still way skewed, and the LRA is completely outclassed. Let's compare the two though. The first one and the LRB. Let's see which one has better damage per second. So 261 times 1.7 shots, so that's 443. Well, you can tell these are, so this has basically just been balanced to match the LRA. And then we've got 778 times 0.7. 544. Yeah, so like you're basically getting almost an extra 25% damage if you just take the LRB. Granted, you have to be, you're a bit more at risk of them dodging your shot or parrying it or whatever shields, but yeah, interesting choice not to nerf that. Laser shotgun got the buffs that I was hoping for, it looks like. So charge projectile speeds and sped up, and decrease charge up time is the big one. That's the one I really wanted in my prediction video, is if you're going to have something that can do consecutive charge shots, you needed it to be able to be pretty fast. I kind of want to test this. Let's see what this feels like now. Crossbow speed is from 350 to 450. That's quite a dramatic buff, yeah. Yeah, let me just throw in an energy generator here. Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for. And now you can actually either do follow-up shots or another... Okay, I'll have to make a build around these now. This one is really fun, I bet. I hope it's not too strong on Tetras. It was already pretty good on Tetras. Yeah, so now you're going to be able to make builds with combos that include a double shot. Let's see here. What's the impact on it? 950. Okay, that's really strong. Definitely coming back to that. Wow, that so increased charge, cumulative impact. Basically all the charging aspects, plus the cooling has been increased. The main thing I think that matters though is the projectile speed of the charge attack and the decreased charge time. That's going to be the big change. Laser handgun. We got increased speed at which the charge gauge empties on. The charge gauge empties on. Is that... It's not cooling. Oh, I think it just means maybe... No. I mean, that seems fine, I guess. I don't really understand the notes on that, though. Oh, sorry. This is the still the laser shotgun. My mistake. Increase. No, it is the same. Increase the speed at which charge gauge empties. What does that mean? Charge gauge empties. Is it after a shot? Because it's immediate. But how fast the yellow turns back to 0? But I mean, the animation was always longer than that, wasn't it? Yeah, I can just... Okay. Seems like an irrelevant change, to be honest. Minor, if anything. Maybe they just did that so that the new charge-up speed wouldn't conflict with the yellow gauge going down and then prevent it artificially from doing a consecutive charge shot. Okay, we've got the 76 PR plasma rifle. They did touch the damage. Interesting. So I think coral and plasma swaps are still going to be very strong. So this just got a projectile speed buff. So wow, coral plasma got a buff. Interesting. Projectile speed seems really fast. What about the charge? That feels the same, but that's fine. Okay, at least they nerfed the coral rifle slightly. So it looks like they did take the nerf that I wanted, which was the attack heat buildup. Let's see, how many shots can we get consecutive here? Okay, it's not really going to matter. Okay, so coral plasma was not really addressed. Not that that build, I don't want to make builds bad, but the less skill it takes to use a build, the more I think it should have a lower ceiling. So in this case, all you got to do is shoot, weapon swap, shoot, weapon swap, shoot, weapon swap. Granted, I have Huxley's on, but okay, that was not really... If anything, I'd call that a buff. Having the projectile speed on the coral blade faster is just going to make it land more and more. Karasawa. Increased impact, accumulative impact, attack buildup, and cooling. Increased cooling when overheated. Full charged impact? What? Was it always this high? Oh, sorry, that's the Walt rifle. I was like, no way. I was like, I used to be able to tank that if I assault boosted. 1930. I think this is the regular attack that's been buffed. I did want them to buff the... I don't think I have enough... I'm going to swap my back to my more flexible build here. I did want them to buff the first stage charge of this weapon. That's kind of what I predicted would be addressed. I can't really tell if that's what they did. The description is a little vague on what specifically got buffed, if anybody knows. Rebula did not get buffed. Oh, was that all the Walt? Maybe you're right. Let's take a... Oh, you're right. Okay, that's good. Never mind. They just didn't nerf it. Okay, so you're right. The regular coral rifle didn't get a buff. It's the speed of the Walt's projectiles that got sped up. That's unfortunate. They basically, but even just if it's only through the plasma rifle, they basically just buffed that build. But yeah, it's not the coral rifle. It's just the Walt rifle that got the projectile speed buff. This one here. Alright, so now it goes into the shields. I mean, I know this one I already talked about. I feel like this was underdone. They basically reduced the consecutive deploys by 1. That's definitely not enough for this shield. It's still going to be extremely strong. The only real question now is, did the buffs of the other shields just make this one not compete as well? But I think shields are still going to be hyper meta. That's not going anywhere, unfortunately. Especially with the PA interference stat not being touched on melee weapons. So yeah, this seems like such a minor change. It's almost not going to matter. So previously, because of the strong cooling, and you're not usually consecutive using it non-stop, like all the way to overheat, your cooling is going to overcompensate for any like nerf to that this is going to maybe feel like. You're never going to realistically overheat the PS shield in most matches before the stagger occurs. So yeah, I don't think that was enough. The PB buckler, again, I am really scared for this change. I feel like this is making it easier to use is the wrong direction from Zoff. Just give it slow down. Just increase the number of deploys first before you make a shield that can block nearly 100% damage and impact. Don't go overkill with this shield. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the shield, but I feel like I mastered it as it was in terms of the window. That was overkill. All right, after this, the SUTT got a decreased heat deploy. So previously this one could not consecutive deploy twice. Now you will, and then you'll have the choice to overheat it for just the IG window. 1, 2, and now if I want, I can choose to overheat it with a third one. That's a lot of IG window. That's 4.6 seconds. Granted, it can't be split into as many sections as the other shields, so this is what I wanted. I wanted them to be able to do like a second deploy. I would have been happier if this was 500 though. If you had made it so that using it on the second deploy back to back did actually overheat it, like just overheat it, so you had to either try to choose to have a small pause and let it cool a bit before doing it. So like if you had to do this, and then that would have not overheated it, that would have been preferable. But man, they're making shields even stronger. Scary. Xiao Wei, increased attack heat buildup, decreased recoil. Okay, so I thought they were going to buff the damage and make it more of a punish weapon, like between the Huxley and a stagger punish weapon. Looks like they're just making it more manageable. The recoil was untenable earlier. At the same time, it will have shorter firing intervals, so less Huxley focus. Spread bazooka Morley, I thought needed a buff. What do we have here? Increased attack power, decreased projectile spread. Yep, that'll do it. A little bit tighter projectiles, meaning it... Yeah, because before it was just a little too point blank. Perfect. That's basically in line with what I expected from that. Split missile launcher, decreased homing lock time. Let's go into this. Okay, so we're skipping the rest of the bazookas. Oh no. The shoulder lasers did not get impact nerfs. Oh, that's devastating. FromSoft. Hopefully the Acellus is enough to maybe they did a lot of testing and the Acellus was enough to overcompensate for these, but I doubt it. These are still better stagger weapons than kinetic weapons, funny enough. Okay, let's just see everything that got skipped. Krennic got skipped. The pulse launcher did not get a magazine increase. That's fine. I was worried about that becoming too good. If that's a thin line with this. If you can completely shut down chase downs, kites would become too strong. So I get it. These missiles are untouched. The splits are where we get some touches. Okay, so BMLG2, that's this one. So this one got a homing lock decrease. I mean, these split missiles were already meta. I'm surprised they're increasing these ones, but okay. The dual missiles got a buff too. So these ones are usually the best stat like on paper, but their trajectory is interesting. So like you can't use it point blank. They basically all got a buff of some sort. So decreased homing lock time and reload time, and wow, 2.8 seconds. That's a lot of missiles. Okay. What do we have here? BMG103. So these just got a decreased reload. I guess these were probably like 4 point something earlier. Okay, so kites are going to be getting stronger. Dual missile PO8 duo. So these ones got a decreased reload time. This is like the chain firing one. That definitely was needed because when you factored in the firing animation, the reload time just made it way too long of a between cycles. No touch on vertical missiles. Wow, FromSoft I think is just afraid to touch these because they know if they make them good, they'll become way too good. Again, just make their stats piddly, like 25 to 50% what they currently do in impact, and just make them more focused on damage and extreme reliability. But nope, looks like they're not going to fix the bug with vertical missiles at all. Active homing missile, decreased homing lock time. Okay, so they probably buffed this one, but not this one, I take it. 1.7 seconds. Yeah, okay, that made sense. I felt like the duels were just always better. Okay, we're getting into head parts. Wait, so nothing else got touched here? Let's scroll down. What else did we have? Huxley's untouched. Can't say I'm surprised. It wasn't a major issue. The Javelin Beta not having a range nerf and then fixing its tracking back is sad, but that's okay. I feel like they already touched this one and they're just like, I don't want to muddle in those waters again. Trano's untouched. Coral's untouched. Sad that the laser orbit didn't get a touch either. It's really hard to justify this. Same with the turret. Okay. Is what it is, though. Headpieces. So, starting off with the Basho, we got an increased attitude stability. Yeah, I mean, not bad. I'm still under 1800 with this. System recovery, so its resistances have been buffed a bit, but it's still low. And scan distance is better, still low. I mean, it's the Basho. It's what you expect. Skip that one. Melander, increased AP. That's a good amount of AP. System recovery and scan distance is also better. Yeah, middling, I would say. Do I not have the Melander? Oh, I do. Okay. I was like, do I not have this headpiece? This one's getting closer to the 1800 mark. I still like the Kassar, though, with what I have. They must have buffed the Kassar, too, then. Given my Looking at my AP stats in particular, I'm assuming the Kassar got an AP buff. So that was increased AP and system recovery. Tian Quang, increased AP, attitude stability. Wasn't this headpiece already really popular on lighter builds? So attitude stability, system recovery, and scan distance. Okay, I wouldn't use it, but seems okay. Here we got, it just says head VP44S. If anybody knows what they changed on this, let me know. As I recall, it was just an averaged head. I'm assuming system recovery. It looks a little bit notable now. EN cost was always quite low. Not sure about that one. I'll check the comments here. I'm not sure why they needed to mess with the knock legs, because they were too oppressive. Like, they were just too good at everything. Because here's the thing: is when you see a build that is just, or when we see a certain item that's just always being used, it usually means it's just too good at too many things. And the knock legs definitely had that. The jump distance was extremely rewarding to them as is, and then the stability was too close to other weapon legs, I bet. So I'm assuming the knock legs got a nerf. What else do we got here? New music, coral missile still OP, more stab recovery or stability and recovery. Okay, that's on the headpiece I was asking. Yeah, no, I thought the knock legs were just too good compared to the other, like the Firmeza legs. It just was, I felt like it was too stable. It should have been a bit more fragile, but we'll get there. Knock headpiece. Oh, I'm glad they buffed this. I always loved the look of this, but I could never justify it on my max because the Kassar was basically just a better version. Increased attitude stability. I'm over 1800 now. Okay. So I can actually justify this headpiece as long as I'm willing to give up the scan and system recovery. What else did it get? Yeah, okay, so it improved the scan and distance and recovery. Let's see what it feels like here. So 1, I can cycle with the Kassar and not lose lock. Ever. Scan recovery is still quite long on this headpiece, though. Still a little hard to justify compared to this. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be using it, unfortunately, still, unless it's purely for the aesthetic. But the EN cost does not justify all the trade-offs still on the Kassar. Or, sorry, to give up the Kassar. So, yep, nothing really major there. Nothing notable. And also they buffed the Kassar, increased AP, that's what I figured. So, yeah, I'll take it. It wasn't major, though, because I'm still in the 10,000 range. It must have been like 200 or so. Lammergeier, increased attitude stability and scan distance on the head. That's fine. Not really its specialty anyway, so not going to make a major difference. Are you kidding me? Why are you buffing the tanks even more, FromSoft? Come on. Okay, so this got an increased attitude stability buff on the VE44A helm. Get out of here with that. Miyazaki truly is a tank player. What do we got here? 44Bs. Oh, no, sorry. This is the one that got the buff to attitude stability as well. Oh, no, they both did. Okay, so not really sure why. This head was already quite good. Finder Eye got increased attitude stability and scan distance, decreased EN load. Still an unremarkable headpiece. The EN cost is really the big decider here. I think that you can probably justify this now, though, as long as you're willing to give up the scan. There might be some times now where the EN or the stability loss is justifiable for that super low EN. I haven't personally used it ever, though, but maybe with like coral blades and stuff that are really expensive, might find a place for that in my builds. Shade Eye has gotten increased attitude stability and system recovery. Okay, well, it definitely wanted some more system recovery stats on headpieces. That's what I was hoping for regarding the stun gun, so I'll take it. Comparing it to the Kassar, though, yeah, it's really that EN question, I guess. It's basically like Kassar Light. You're giving up in order to get the energy cost lower, but you get some better stats on just like some general stats like defense, but your scan's not going to be super powerful anymore. Wrecker got increased attitude stability, system recovery. Yeah, okay, good. They're giving a lot of heads, pieces, system recovery. That's what I really wanted regarding the stun gun change. It just felt all or nothing before. You had to run like a super high resistance one, and there wasn't a lot of options. That's one of the main reasons I don't use the Mind Alpha, or sorry, Mind Beta headpiece was the system recovery stat compared to the Kassar. Probably still won't change that. What do we got? Appetizer, increased AP. So we got increased AP, attitude stability, and system recovery. Yep, general increased attitude. On the Fermezza head, we got increased AP, attitude stability. We've got system recovery and scan distance and decreased weight. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of nice changes. The stability with the headpiece is really the thing I always look at first though, followed by system recovery, and then finally what's its scan interactions? Is it one really long scan? Is it multiple small scans, or is it like the Kassar just really good at both? The Alba head got increased attitude stability and system recovery. Yep, same idea. Mind Alpha. Oh, they increased the attitude stability even more on this. Wow, so you're actually pushing. Well, this is not major actually. We're pushing 1900. Scan distance was also approved, but without the system recovery being addressed, I don't think I'll be using this. The HAL head increased attitude stability. Yep, very generalist head. Not much else to say about that. The scan standby time was really punishing on this though. So if you missed your scan, it really sucked because you were gonna have to wait a long time to try to get another one. It was a very all or nothing. Okay, taking a look at the cores. What are we gonna get here? The Melander core is the Basho core got to change. Increased AP. Pretty marginal though by the looks of it. Attitude stability and generator output. Yeah, generator output looks not really noticeable. It went from nothing to slightly more than nothing. Okay, good to know. Melander, increased AP, attitude stability, and decreased weight. Wow, okay, so this has more stability than... Did this always have more stability than the Mind Alpha? I know that the reason I use the Mind Alpha was the EN supply, though, but... Interesting. Okay. It's still pretty close, though. I don't know. Would I ever justify using this over the Mind Alpha? It's not that much of a weight difference. 1,000 pounds on your core, well, 1,300 is not a lot. I don't think that makes me want to use that though. Okay, Melander 3, increased AP, booster efficiency adjust. There we go. We need to see more booster efficiency adjustments. Generator supply. Yep. Okay, and then decrease weight. I mean, I might use this over this. I feel like in most cases. If I'm trying to shed weight and not use the Mind Alpha, I don't think I'm ever going to go to the Melander, but I might go down to the Melander 3. I guess it's going to depend on what they did to the Alba, though. Hopefully they buffed the Alba. Qiang Kwang got a decreased generator supply adjust. Okay. So the more quickly, so this affects your EN recharge rate. Well, that's good. Yeah, this core was way too common. I'm glad they've made a punishing return on that. If you want to have that tankiness, you ain't getting really good recharge time. That's good. This was needing buffs. Did they touch it? Increased generator output. Yeah, okay, so they did. That is nice. Again, this one was also always outclassed by the Mind Alpha. Just looking at it right now, still seems to be the problem. The weight's not enough. EN cost is not enough to distinguish it. I had mentioned the booster efficiency adjust on this and maybe lifting it a little bit just to make it more stand out, because you can see my QB cost here is irrelevantly different between the Mind Alpha. Yeah, I don't think this was enough. This is under adjusted. It's going to need work still. Take a quick look, see any new questions. Mind Alpha still won in the... Yeah, yeah, the knockhead is decent. You're right, Remy. I am glad they buffed that. I still don't think I'm going to be able to justify it over the Kassar, but it's nice that at least it won't feel like if I'm going for pure aesthetic, I won't be taking such a penalty. Mind Alpha, yeah, also still just crushing the other cores that were close to it. For Meza, what do we get here? Increased AP and generator output adjust. Okay, so this is affecting the final EN cost. Probably needed. This one did feel very difficult to get viable on a lot of different generators. I'm assuming this will make some more options opened up in the generator area for this. You're not going to have to just run the classic ones like the 20S. Right. Oh, okay. It looks like we're jumping into arms already. Yeah, okay, sweet. Surprised the orbiter didn't get looked at. This thing just has no home still. Uh, what else? The Alba also untouched. Unfortunate. This one definitely needed some EN questions answered because it had a good EN recharge delay, but terrible EN supply efficiency. And yeah, that is a problem. Then again, if you're using, depending on your generator choices, it's not that it wasn't insurmountable, but I didn't see it on a lot of builds, and it was a shame because it was one of the coolest looking cores in my mind. Oh well. Moving on to arms. Looks like they did add more melee specializations. Let's see if they gave one into the 130 category. That's what I was hoping for. So Basho unchanged, looks like. First one that gets a change is the Melander arms. Increased melee special. Okay, so this one just got normalized with some of the other arms. That's irrelevant. Here we go. 135. They did it. They made a 130 melee specialization arm. Okay, so Melanders will give us. Oh, sorry, I'm an idiot. I got all excited there. It looks like this one is the one, the 124. I had the firearm and melee specialization swapped in my mind there. Okay, so this one's close to the 130 line. We still got more to look at, but this one will be like lower middle of the pack, hopefully, if they did put a 130 in. Definitely we'll look at that. So let's just do the math here really quick. So you get a 0.29 buff with the Basho arms. These ones are going to give you a 0.12, so a little under half of the. Yeah, I am still hoping for like a mid-30s one. I don't think the Melander 3's change is pretty noticeable. I don't think I would ever use these arms if I was debating on using melee. I would still stick with my other options. Tian Lao got increased melee specialization, irrelevant though, and decreased AP and firearm specialization. That's probably a good idea. I'm hoping that what they're doing here for tank lasers is that they're going to make it so that the arms firearm specialization is lowered combined with the Ocellus, and it's actually going to be dodgeable now on a lot of those charge attacks. So if they just spam them as soon as they're able to shoot, they're going to have to actually be a little bit more selective about when they fire everything. VP46S also got an increased melee specialization. There it is. Okay, so that's exactly what I was hoping for. We've got a middling melee specialization arm. Now, the damage drop-off between this and the Basho doesn't seem so bad, and I think the firearm specialization is going to help a lot of the melee builds still keep up with their Zimmerman. So I think I'm actually going to be swapping for these arms in a lot of cases. It's going to depend on the EN load when I play around with the generators, because I notice it is noticeably heavier and noticeably heavier on the EN cost. But if I can make this work on a lot of melee builds, I think I'll be using these arms in a lot of cases. I'm just going to have to shed weight elsewhere. Maybe the legs, because I did see some changes in legs that I'm pretty excited for. Jump distance was the big thing I said biped legs need, and I think they did adjust that. So I'm likely swapping my legs and putting these on if possible. VP46D. Oh, wow, this also got a major... Maybe I jumped the gun here. I don't have to have weight changes. I could just use this. But the Basho arms have better stats. Still, that firearm specialization and recoil buff is quite strong. Okay, so melee got quite a few adjustments in our favor here. That's a lot of melee specialization. This one doesn't really matter. Or there's no change there. It's the Wrecker arms. We have to skip all the rest. The rest are unchanged. Wrecker melee specialization's not really noticeable. The Salad arms getting good melee specialization is kind of funny. That for tankier melees, that might be notable. Yeah, is it worth the stats? I mean, my AP doesn't seem to go up, and my resistances don't. I don't know if I would justify it, but it might have an interesting place on tankier melees. For Meza, increased melee specialization, a slight. This was already what was it, 110 or 117? Not a major jump. The other arms stand out a lot more now, I think, in terms of melee specialization. Alba, melee specialization got a lift, but not enough to matter. It's still not a melee arm. Mind Alpha, not enough to matter. Hal, not enough to matter. Okay, so I guess that's all the arms. But yeah, definitely some interesting changes on some of these 130, 140 arms. For if you want to maintain weight, I'm just trying to think, but you need firearm specialization. This will probably stand out if people want to do Etsugens with a melee punish. I don't know why they're buffing that, but having firearm specialization and recoil control, uh, this is going to make the Etsugens and other SMGs now, I guess, really strong because of that punish being enhanced a lot more. Oh, yeah. I think the one that I'm most interested in, it's either this guy, for if I can justify the weight and EN cost, maybe this one for more middling stats, but I don't know. That's still quite a decent drop off in damage. You really needed that mid 130s. So as of now, I'm gonna keep the Basho arms on, but I always did want to get rid of these because I hate the look of them, and I might just make this one work purely for the aesthetic if I can fit the weight in there. Yeah. Target tracking being buffed is also going to be quite handy, particularly with the nerf to the Acellus. Before I jump into the legs, just see what the comments say. VP arms, good news. Yeah, VPS is the best looking arms. Happy I got a melee buff. Yep, yep. 46D was 117. Yeah, okay, gotcha. All right, jumping into biped legs. Already stoked here. I'm definitely dropping some weight in this range. I'm going to take a look. So jump distance was always my main, and stability. Well, sorry, I should say stability first, then jump range was or distance was always my main stat considerations for melee. Looks like Basho went from 120, I believe it was, to 152. That is massive. This is going to make melees feel a lot more evasive in close quarters and a lot better, especially with the Acellus nerf. So this is a major change and probably one of the most meta affecting ones, I think. You're going to see bipeds have better evasive opportunities now. It's going to really help us Kikaku users, although the Kikaku may be irrelevant. We'll see when I play around with the Flugel. Okay, so Basho, yep, jump distance. Melander C3, jump distance. Yep, still excellent. And I can shed quite a bit of weight if I go into this. I'm just going to really quickly test something here. Can I make this work? EN is still a problem. And then what if I swap the generator to that other one? No, okay, I won't be able to make that work. We need a large capacity. I still think Santai is going to be essential for melee, so despite the nerf to EN recharge delay. I think the main question is really going to be if the Ling or the Ming Tang can have a place on melee now. That is going to be a decision. Let me just take a look at the cores really quick. That's too much of a drop in stability. I need to be over 1800. I'll come back to this and play around with it. And I think 4000 EN supply efficiency is pretty essential for melee, but we need to have that 1800 stability. I'll come back to that. Okay, so jumping back into the legs, what do we got here? So 138, solid. Knock legs got a nerf. Again, I do really think this, I know it's not going to be popular, but the problem is that it was the only really good light legs. Like the 42 or 422s, in theory, were quite fast for biped legs, but not having the jump distance was the necessary trade-off. Obviously, that was their specialty for the Nox. But then the stability difference was so marginal that it was like, why would I ever use these? There was a couple of slight, like especially with the SPD booster, a few situations where you could use these legs and make them stand out. You could really crank up the boost speed. But yeah, the knock legs did need that. VE20A, let's jump to that one. So that's after knock. So these got decreased AP, okay, these just got nerfed in resistances and AP. That's probably needed. These were too tanky. Bipeds, or heavy bipeds, were just way too tanky, for sure. They didn't feel like bipeds, that's for sure. Desserts. These also got the same sort of nerf, resistances and AP. I'll take it. For Meza, okay, how did they change these? Increased jump distance. There we go, 155. Okay, now we got these light legs were always held back by their jump distance relative to the Nox. I think these will be quite popular now. In fact, even some of my melee builds might, my lighter melee builds might take a look at this now. I bet you this is close enough over the knock legs to make a case to use these despite the jump distance drop. Again, also factoring in the Acellus change is going to make these jump distances matter more. The Alba legs are better in resistances, and the jump distance, that 20 meters is going to matter actually. Jump height is still better. I think that's what the Alba legs were always for, is they were like the biped lightweight legs that had good jump height. So I could see these being useful on my pistol build actually. Ephemera, increased jump distance. So nothing on the Mind Alphas. Yep, these needed the jump distance buff. Again, same problem as the other ones. They were like lightweight legs that just could not keep up with the knock legs in any fashion. So that's standout. I think they have better load limits though. Let's see here. What's the load limit on this? I want 140 or maybe 130, but I don't think I can support the weight on any of my legs. Could do it with the Basho legs. Oh, don't make me put on Basho legs, FromSoft. Get out of here. I'm not doing that. I refuse. Okay, now's not the time to tinker my melee builds though. Okay, so Ephemera got the jump distance, and then Kassar legs got jump distance. That was definitely needed. They were just flat out not out like spacing the other legs, so I'll take that. Reverse joints getting a jump distance buff. Oh no, they didn't get a jump. They got a load limit buff. I mean, that also was needed. I feel like they're a little too close to the spring chicken still in jump distance though. And the Mind Beta, yeah. Okay, we'll see how that handles. I think that was probably under adjusted. Spring Chicken got a buff, increased stability. Curious. Making this even better still, and now making the Kassar even harder to stand out. I know that your boost speed can be a lot better with this one, but I don't know. It just felt too close to the Mind Beta. Like, look at the weight difference. It's only what, like 3,000 roughly. That's not a lot, especially when you look at all the other buffs you get with Mind Beta. I still think Mind Beta is going to beat out the Kassar legs, but we'll see. Tetrapod, please tell me the energy drain's been increased. Decreased attitude stability. I mean, I'll take a nerf. Reduced max movement speed while hovering. As much as I don't like fighting lamb legs, I feel like if you lower their speed, well, maybe that will help out indirectly because they'll have to use QB more to keep space, which will mean it'll also burn their energy more. That's another way to do it, I suppose. I was worried that like these legs really depend on outspacing even assault boost very well. And decreasing the speed was a very slippery slope. There was a thin margin where if you messed it up, they were just going to become useless. Time will tell. But fundamentally, I think what we just really needed was to make them burn more EN, and this might do it indirectly. The tank legs increased AB or AB thrust and AP. You made them more tanky and better at chase down. I'm assuming this is to help compensate for the Acellus nerf. Yeah, I guess. Okay, that's all for the legs. Everything else was untouched. So these guys, really, because you never see the VE42B. Okay, so that one's not adjusted either. Interesting choice, making tanks more tanky. Boosters. The SPD increased melee attack thrust. Okay, so yeah, like I was assuming that all of the boosters were going to get a lift to melee thrust. I was hoping that rather than just individually tweaking them, they were just going to expand the variant, like the range itself, so that the Kakaku had a higher ceiling and all the stats relatively stayed the same, but just everything got a slight lift. But it looks like they're going piece by piece. So melee thrust on the SPD being faster. When would this come in? I think this is just for mainly punishes. I don't know that that'll make major build changes. Does this warrant the Flugel not being used? I don't know. The assault boost is a bit more efficient. Let me try here. Let me just swap to one of my builds that would use the SPD then. Let's see what the difference is here. Now, in theory, the SPD gives better weight or load limits. So I used the SPD on my EUL build, and I considered it on this build, but I didn't go that direction. Who else uses SPD? Nope. NGI. This one's a Lula. Well, you know what though? This build would... I haven't published the video on this one, I don't think, but that's okay. Okay, so if you're gonna run a melee punish, because like usually the SPD is a kiting booster, right? You want to have just passive boost speed where you don't need to use assault boost so often. And I do often swap it on this build. So we're at 361. Could I justify running the pulse blade on this now? I didn't really like the linear rifle pulse blade combo though. It's a very unsatisfying combo. You know what? Maybe not even this build. Let's go to the EUL. That is where it's going to stand out, but I don't have a melee attack on that one. There's a place for something like the pile bunker. To like melee, like having a melee thrust will help the light attack, but it also really benefits from the SPD's passive boost speed, so you can close the gap. Like without needing to do QBs, you can just move up to them. So I bet you this build will benefit. Let's see what the melee thrust feels like. Oh yeah, that's real fast. What's my speed here? 307. Could I make this a little bit lighter? Yeah, well actually this build definitely should be running one of the better jump distance legs. I think these ones would be good on it. Yeah, now when we're in... So one thing to be in mind with the jump distance changes is you don't want to jump too far away when you're point blank doing your QB cancels. So being careful, that could become a bit of an issue in the game now, but... Yeah, okay, so this booster still feels quite aggressive in melee range, like that. Flugel, increased melee attack thrust. I mean, I know which build I gotta swap to for this. Gotta do that laser dagger build. So, Angel says, I think the SPD having better melee thrust than the Alula allows you to have good melee without compromising coasting and aerial performance. Yeah, but the Alula already had good melee thrust. That's the thing, like it was good enough anyway for like passive builds that would just kite and then just go in for a punish with something like a pulse blade. It was already really good. Let's compare. So the Alula's got 10,868 and the SPD has 11. Yeah, it's like just slightly behind. The main thing with the Alula was always the EN cost to do the melee lunge. That's why you usually only wanted to do it with a punish. Yeah, so Flugel having a buff, I'm worried this is going to be too good because this, yeah, so in the same vein that Angel says here, verticals where melee suffers. That's true. The Flugel gave you a really good way to handle that if you didn't want to use a Kakaku. Now I think even more so. I do think that this is at risk of making the Kakaku even more irrelevant. They buffed the Alula, or the Flugel last time, making it even more close to the Kakaku is seriously in danger of making the Kakaku irrelevant. What about the ranges here? So let's compare the weights. Yeah, the weights are really close. Sad they didn't adjust the reload time on the Flugel. I would have preferred that more than anything. Because you want, like, I wanted at least one defensive melee booster that was more evasive and still hard committed to melee in a way. Yeah, the Kakaku not getting a buff is unfortunate. I'm just trying to see if there's anything that makes the Kakaku stand out over the Flugel. The Assault Boost EN consumption is almost irrelevant because you close the gap with melee lunge, and the only thing you do with Assault Boost is cancel your melee lunge for the most part, which doesn't cost any energy. And in order to rapidly redirect into a new direction when they QB past you. It does also help with just staying point blank with the Zimmerman, but I feel like that is not a major concern. It's also a bit more energy efficient, I guess, but yeah, I really worry the Flugel now is completely replacing a Kakaku. I do want to just see if this feels any different. It feels pretty close. I don't know if it went up a ton. I'll probably notice it more on heavier melee builds that are closer to the weight limit because I'm so underweight right now. I definitely do have to swap the generator now. I'm noticing my EN recharge delays over 1 second. That or the core. Oh, I remember what I was going to do. I was going to try the Ming Tang on this one. The Ming Tang, I bet you, is the way to go with this one now. Just because I guess you don't want to drain your battery completely, though, so let's just see how this feels. Yeah, so now I can basically get my energy back with 1 shield use. PB Buckler being even better has only helped that even further. It's going to be very hard to handle this build, which is, I'm actually glad for it. Like, I hate to say it, guys and gals, but I really do prefer this melee build now over my primary one. Even though the primary one was in theory better, I just enjoy the playstyle of this one more. Burzel, decreased QBEN consumption. I guess that just helps with dodging while you're assault boosting at them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increased AB thrust. Okay, so I said that they needed to find a place for this booster. Was it offensive or defensive? Looks like they're making it more offensive, so it's going to be able to close the gap a little better with a high weight load. Ceiling for thrust is still under 500 though with assault boost. I guess that'll just really matter for tanks though. Gridwalker, increased melee attack thrust. Don't really get it because this booster basically specializes in getting or creating height disparity, which is how you make it so melee thrust doesn't work. Granted, you're in control of it, so that's fine, I guess. But again, it's just another passive, okay, only for your punish sort of situation buff to melee thrust. The gills, increased AB thrust. That was really needed. So the problem with this is that the Alula had the ability to close the gap, and the gills, it doesn't still, I bet, but at least it's a little better. It was really low in assault boost thrust. We're still below 500 though. That is still quite slow. A small buff. I don't think it'll make a major difference to the gills, but it might help with not having them just immediately disengage and get their impact recovered. The Abbot has become a middle ground a little bit more so now, particularly because of the missile lock. So now this one has the missile and close range niche. Not my main priority, especially with my love of the Huxley recently over the Jav betas, but I'll take it. The Talbot, close range buff, medium range assist, and decreased EN load. Okay, that all right, so how does this one stack up compared to the Walt now? Okay, that's good. I like that change. So they basically just made you choose between the Walt for more medium focus, or you could downgrade to the Talbot, have a like more noticeable close range and medium range, but giving up the long range, and still have strong missile lock. I think this will become a very popular FCS. Major weaknesses on it don't seem to exist. Yeah, I guess the medium range, it might be a little low. If you're fighting against the Talbot, it's going to be definitely more of a like trying to stay in the medium range assist if it suits your build. 57, like the bar looks like a lot, but 57 does really hurt. Like it hurts more at medium range than it does at close range when it's not close to max. So V21A got a buff, thank God. Increased close range assist was needed. Yeah, it was way too low. Medium range and medium range assist. Okay. So this is, how does this one compare now? The V21B might just be flat out classed even on kites. The missile lock is going to be what makes the decision for you on this, I bet. But then again, they did improve a lot of missiles reload times and some of them on their missile lock time. So will that even matter as much? Maybe not. I bet you this one will be used more now though. Oh wow, it's actually lighter too. Yeah, so kiters eat your heart out. And has better EN cost. Yeah, okay, never mind. It's settled. This one's going to be more popular on kiters. This one did get a medium range assist buff and a long range assist, so now both are essentially maxed. Again, kiters try to stay at the long range though, and then will getting that. Granted, it hurts to drop a little bit in medium range. It hurts a lot more, but that close range difference is massive. And then we already talked about the SLS, a well-needed nerf. Missile lock being zeroed almost made sense. There was no reason to ever use the habit. So the close range nerf was also really ruining the meta. Looks like that's all for FCSs. Jumping into the generators. The Yaba increased EN capacity. It was very small by the looks of it. Maybe like 100 or 200. So sure, take it. EN recharge has also been buffed. So the EN recharge delay. There was a lot of work needed in an EN recharge delays, like the Santai, like the boosters, or sorry, the generators being used were just way too meta. There was only a couple of viable options, and largely it was either came down to capacity or EN recharge delay. So that is good to see that. The Hakoshi increased EN capacity. Again, I think this one's just a couple hundred, maybe 300, I think. So increase EN capacity and EN recharge. Wow, look at that supply efficiency though if I put that on this build. Ling Tai, yeah, increased EN capacity. All right, so still very hard to make your EN load work, but it did need a capacity buff. It just was like if you're going to run something that has really good EN recharge and supply recovery, you can't make the capacity so low as to make that recharge irrelevant. So that was definitely needed. I don't think it was a major change though, so I would have been fine with this going all the way up to like 2400, but that's okay. Ling Tai, probably my favorite generator change so far, especially in relative to the Santai's nerf. Or sorry, I meant to say the Ming Tang, my favorite. Not Ling Tai, Ming Tang, my favorite. With the EN capacity being a slight buff, but mainly just the EN recharge delay relative to the Santai being so much stronger, and the supply now also stands out. Yep, Santai having a more than 1 second recharge delay makes total sense. I still think it'll be popular on melee builds because at the end of the day, your capacity decides your combo length. But we might be able to now use boost speed to close the gap a bit more, and especially the Flugel getting a buff to thrust, we might not need quite as much capacity while using that booster. So I could see these changes opening up more room for the Flugel. VP20S. Increased capacity, EN recharge delay, and output. Wasn't this already meta? And same with the 20C, increased capacity, recharge, post-recovery, EN supply. Buffing these boosters seems strange. Okay. I mean, I guess kiters, yeah, enjoy. Hope they buff this. Increase capacity further. Looks like it's only about 100 points, though. Energy firearm spec. Ah, okay. So this one's a hybrid more so now between the VE generators and something like the Santai. Interesting. I do like that change. It's quite heavy though, that's the thing. VE20A, increased capacity, definitely needed. EN recharge. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still wondering if it stands out relative. I mean, I guess your EN supply load is good. It's between the two now. All right, so the EN recharge delay being so close for these two is an interesting decision. It's basically wait for what is it? What does this give you? I mean, other than obviously better energy specialization, I get that. These two are quite close now. The supply efficiency is definitely going to be the standout here, but you're basically choosing okay, so you're basically choosing capacity over EN supply efficiency. Obviously this one having better damage. What about between these two? Okay, so EN recharge delay is going to be the distinguishing factor between these two. Okay. NGI00, decreased post recovery. Okay, so they made it so you don't get quite as much back anymore. And EN firearm specialization. That was a relatively small change. It doesn't. I think it used to be 110, so it's not as good with energy weapons anymore. Okay, that's all of the changes to gear. There are some bug fixes. Let's see if there's anything in here. This is good. Fixed an issue that caused melee attacks to not connect with enemies due to interactions with walls and terrain. That's going to really help with the punch stagger extends. Some of the wonkiness with the slice or anything that where they were like touching a wall. Um, Fixed an issue with melee not registering when people are using pulse armor and terminal armor. I'm hoping that means that our melee weapons now are actually going to deplete pulse armor very quickly. Fixed an issue when equipping chargeable shoulder-mounted weapons, pressing the shift control button while being staggered, resulting in any attack following the initial stagger to not occur. A heavy stagger. Okay, so they fixed like heavy staggers not registering. That's good. A lot of that was needed. Melee did have these really wonky situations. It's sad that they didn't adjust the expansions. Fixed an issue where hits would sometimes not register when attacking an enemy using pulse armor, terminal armor with a melee weapon. We already talked about that. Okay, that seems to be the main ones that affect us. The rest are just bug fixes. Okay, that's my thoughts. I think that overall, prediction-wise, I was pretty much, I'm going to call it 3 for 3. My major changes did occur. The Acellus, the PS shield, although not as much as I had hoped. I do think this will still be a problem. The only real question is whether or not the SUQ5 not getting nerfed is going to overtake it, or if the PB Buckler's extra deploy and or sorry, rather the IG duration enhancement of the PB Buckler was a little too overkill. That's a significant buff. That's 33% more duration, and you get an extra use, which is another. I mean, if going from 2 to 3 is basically a 50% buff to the number of deploy counts. So that is probably going to be rolled back. But I did expect those buffs. I expected the Acellus nerf and the missile being added or replaced to the Abbott being the close range plus missile hybrid. The generator changes came off guard, and I don't think they nerfed the Alula. I was hoping for that one. That's not one of my primary predictions, but yeah, that is surprising that the boost on this one, or the thrust speed, is still so close to the max. It's having 4 performance stats is quite scary at S tier. So assault boost, QB reload, QB thrust, and thrust. I think for myself personally, I'm just going to play around with the Flugel a lot more now and some of these generator changes. I don't think I'll be giving up the Acellus, though. Well, maybe I will. I'll play around with the Abbott on this one. I don't use a missile, but the medium range assist is interesting. So yeah, I'll play around with that. I'm pretty sure I'm sticking with the Acellus on this build though. Legs wise, I might tinker around with that and enjoy the patch. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys out there. Oh, I guess I should probably take a look at the comments one more time. Pulse armor can still deadfall. Yeah, kind of sad. Long range won't be viable until we get some higher muzzle velocities and increased ranges. Yeah, definitely the assault rifles were given the middle finger here. What else do we got here? No new parts. Yeah, I understand, Arcane. No, like new parts would be nice. The problem is we have 70% of what we already have not being viable. They really got to pick. They've just been building up this massive amount of work that's needed. I don't think they can afford any new gears. I wouldn't have minded it if it was just like a couple of token ones, but they are in a really bad place with balancing right now. So I understand why they're not trying to bite off more than they can chew, even more so. The SPD will be a boon for light melee. Yep. I mean, don't forget the Flugel also got a big buff though on that one. So that I don't know if the Flugel is going to be challenged by the SPD just so much yet. Definitely because of the weight limits being so close still. Again, the Flugel, the SPD, and the Kakaku, they don't have enough weight disparities to give them their niches. The Kakaku purely for EN efficiency, the Flugel for almost everything else. The SPD, yeah, like you're paying a bit more in EN cost, but mainly the lack of thrust. The thrust on this is still below where the Flugel was, I think. And the QB EN consumption makes it difficult to justify this as a melee booster exclusively. I think you're mainly leaning into the boost speed. Granted, the jump distance is helping, might make it so you don't need to QB as much. Maybe this would be kind of interesting. Now I can go 380. I still think I like the Flugel's thrust though. What else do we got here? Was wheelchair not tank? The wheelchair was not addressed in any way. Oh, time to come back and have fun. Vertical is where all the melee struggles against me. Yeah, I mean, melee, the way you dodge melee is by creating vertical, like, height disparities, basically. There are ways to counter it as melee, for sure. Definitely with using assault boost rather than QB costs to cancel your melee lunges a lot of the time so that you're saving energy, because that basically is what you're doing. You're trying to fight for energy efficiency on a vertical opponent. V20S Crack Rabbit builds, let's go. Yeah, definitely. I'm really surprised they buffed the VP20S. That is interesting. You think weapon buffs are enough to see less Zims without Zim nerfs? Yeah, so in my last video I talked about the problem with the Zimmerman is not actually the Zimmerman. Or sorry, I should say the problem with the Zimmerman builds was not the Zimmerman. It was the PS shield. So it was because they could block forever. And you were just taking Zimmerman hits reliably, and they were blocking everything you threw at them because they could just keep spamming this. I don't think they addressed it enough. I think that granted they weakened the legs resistances a bit. I think these still have way too many deploys for an easy to use parry shield. The easier it is to use and the more generous the IG duration, the less uses you should get. But paradoxically, the VP 61 PS and now probably the SUQ5 on heavy bipeds, they have way too many deploys. I don't think this was enough to fix the heavy biped Zimmerman build. Time will tell, I guess. There's a new Ducket build. Yeah, I have I did show that earlier in the video. I haven't made a video on it yet, but basically the way it works, if you're curious, is because the Ducket has high impact but lower accumulative impact, you use the Huxley alternating them rather than both at the same time to make sure that they never decay their impact down. So you're basically getting like 300 impact per shot, and then you've got two of them, so you're hitting for like the Zimmermans basically, but you're shooting way faster. You don't have a pure punish, but the Duckets do enough punish as is, and you can re-stagger people so fast that like it's almost like it doesn't even matter you don't have a pure punish because you're just re-staggering them so often. How high did the Flugel melee thrust increase? Substantially. I did want it to replace the Kakaku's value and the Kakaku to get a new ceiling buff. So it's literally only 1,000 thrust difference now. There's the comparison for you. The main difference with the Kakaku now is just going to be the EN efficiency of it. It's better on QBs. It's better on assault boost to save energy. It's better on the melee thrust. Although I like I said, I am really questioning whether or not it's going to be worth it now. I think the Kakaku needs a buff. So okay, yeah. Anyways, looks like that's all the comments. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and enjoy the patch. I'm going to jump in and tinker around with some of my builds and re-optimize a lot of them, starting with this one. So see you out there.